Morning. I generally believe that the break we take at Thanksgiving comes at a point in the year when we are most in need of a change of speeds and time to recharge. But this early March juncture, still in the midst, clearly, of a long winter, is a close second. With many years of living in the greater Boston area now in my rearview mirror, I've accepted that March is actually a winter month. April has a lot more in common with March than it does May, and when it comes to extended, warmer, spring-like days, the best we can usually hope for is a few weeks in May before graduation weekend is upon us. Then the year's over. I share all of this to emphasize that the nearly 3 weeks awaiting us, beginning on Wednesday, are important. We find some well-deserved time to step away from the busy and full pace we have been keeping since the second semester started. And whether we escape to a warmer climate or not, we will have a chance to gear up for what awaits us between late March and early June. As we sit here this morning, the class of 2019 is exactly 12 weeks away from being front and center under the tent and on the verge of becoming the school's newest graduates. About 1 month ago, I asked myself and community class of sixth formers to rate on a scale of 1 to 10 how eager they were to be done at Brooks. I think I said that choosing a 1 would mean they would just assume leave today if they could. A 10 would mean they would consider tying themselves to a tree on prize day and never leaving. My recollection is that there was 1 and no 10s, and most of the responses were in the 3 to 7 range, with the average probably around 4. This seemed about right to me at the time, as being ready to go when the time comes is the hope. You can't stay forever. Yet, in my life as head of school that occasionally has me out and about catching up with alumni and alumni, most recently in Boston, Florida, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, I routinely hear alums recalling their experiences here wistfully. I hear them reflecting on their years here thoughtfully and appreciatively. I see them together, enjoying a chance to reconnect at points in their lives when finding time to do so can be difficult. I think of the talks that alums Charlie Davies and Matt Muse gave right here in chapel in much the same way, looking back at what started for them here, at how years spent here have held in meaning and importance over time. Now, I don't mean to suggest that any of them wish they had tied themselves to a tree and never left Brooks, but I do mean to suggest that these years will reverberate for you throughout your lives in ways you can't possibly know in this moment. To be fair, not everyone comes to receptions, and it is certainly true that there are Brooks School alumni and alumni who do not recall their years here in the same way that reception attendees do. A profound hope of mine is that all of you in 10 or 25 or 50 years will care about your school in ways that will compel you to attend receptions, engage with the school in ways that aim to continually improve it, and pay it forward, if you will, often driven by experiences had here that included ups and downs alike. It is important that we try to learn from both. While I've been doing this for a while now, I still find it challenging to come and go from campus during the school year. When I'm away, I miss the buzz of school and all the good that happens here on a daily basis. There's so much that trying to convey the depth of my good feeling and pride in all that we do so well to groups of alums interested in what we are up to feels impossible. What I do say is that if any of them were here, even for a day, they would be proud of all of you and proud of their school. Of that, I have no doubt. There are also anecdotes and quick notes that surface during and after receptions that stay with me for a variety of reasons, I think. Here's a sampling. In San Francisco, a member of the class of 1966, wondered whether, like Mr. Ashburn, I ever invited sixth formers into my office, as Mr. Ashburn did with him, to tell them that I don't think that particular student is Harvard material. I told him I don't do that. In Florida, a member of the class of 1996 was chatting with Mrs. Packard and me and said, "What is up with the dress code these days? I was looking at the campaign book, and you," meaning me, "were the only person wearing a tie." Mrs. Packard said, "Do you wear a tie to work every day?" He said, "Well, no." Mrs. Packard said, "All right then." And we moved on. In Los Angeles, a member of the class of 2006 asked me whether we still had muffins at breakfast. I told her that we still do, and that we even have a smoothie bar a few days a week. Her jaw dropped, and she could not believe the good fortune that has befallen our school before saying, "And you still have the ice cream machine as well?" I nodded. She confessed that she used to make an ice cream cone for her mother every time her mother picked her up at the end of the day. Another member of the class of 1966 asked me, certain that he knew what my answer would be, whether I imagined there was any boarding school anywhere situated on a more beautiful piece of land. I told him no. In a conversation with a member of the class of 1985, when I was asking him to help us in some new ways, led him to reply by saying, "I'll do anything for the school. I love Brooks." A member of the class of 2009 wrote to me after our evening in Los Angeles last week and finished by saying, "I have to say how proud I remain to be an alumnus of Brooks School." A member of the class of 1986 hosted a dinner that Mrs. Dobbins and I attended at his home last week and wrote to both of us afterwards. He finished by saying, "I feel very fortunate to have spent 4 years of my life at Brooks and would not be the person I am today without that experience." The mother of a member of the class of 2018 relayed to me that her son said, "No dollar amount will ever be able to give back what they gave me." There is more, but let it suffice to say that it feels important to me to try to connect this perspective with all of us who are here living the school's life at this point in its existence. I'm reminded that the school belongs to students, past, present, and yet to come. I'm moved by being around so many people who work on its behalf, care about it, hope for it, and stay with it for the balance of their lives after graduating in any and all ways they can. I find it inspiring. It feels important that all of us here in the moment know there are scores of others who lived our school's life at an earlier point in its existence and pull for us in any way they can. When I get back to school, however, and find myself here in chapel sharing thoughts with all of you who are itching to get on with the day and your break and whatever is next in your life, I suppose I want to do all we can to help you appreciate in the moment that what we have here, warts and all, is temporary and worth maximizing. I hope you will have lots of moments in your life when opportunities to revisit with Brooks' friends will materialize. But what I know is that those moments won't be like these moments. I'm certain that all the alums I've seen over the past few weeks, and the alums I'm looking forward to seeing in Seoul and Hong Kong during the first week of our break, would agree. For the class of 2019, who will have just 9 weeks to go, when all of them return to their dormitories 3 weeks from tonight, the time feels so scarce and precious to me in the wake of visiting with so many whose time here as a student has already passed. I fully appreciate this as a normal pattern in life. We all become wistful as we age and look back, perhaps through rose-colored glasses at times. But with the class of 2019 in mind, and so many of them sharing with us in chapel at this point in the year, I want to offer a bit of advice aimed at helping you squeeze all you can out of this experience as you finish well in the process. I say this just about every year in one form or another, but don't leave without walking the campus along the lake slowly, methodically, with friends, and by yourself. Do this at sunrise at some point. I give you permission. The physical space where we go to school is extraordinary. A time will come in your life when you will return here with spouses, partners, children, friends, and all of them will say to you in astonishment, "You went to high school here?" They'll be blown away. Take time to connect with the place. Don't leave without trying to find a way to sit with every member of your class in some way. Meals are best. Get off your beaten path and avail yourself of the talent and passion and goodness in your midst. Try to really know everyone in your class before you leave. Think about a teacher who reached you in a way that still holds for you. Maybe you've never shared that with the teacher. Find a way to do so. And don't leave here on prize day with words left unsaid. Think about the 3 classes of students who will continue to be here after you graduate. Think about those you really admire and believe in. Tell them you do. And know that your words will stay with that younger student for a long, long time. Don't think your words of this sort don't matter. Thank your parents for allowing you to come to Brooks and for sharing so much of you with the school through these years. Thank the folks in the dining hall who serve us 3 meals a day and those in facilities who take such beautiful care of this campus we are so privileged to enjoy together. As I think you probably grasp, I am a big fan of this Ashburn Chapel and of time we spend together here. I believe the time and messages you hear and share with one another in this space will stay with you in ways, perhaps not the specifics as we go through the spring, but you will remember being here, and I predict you will be glad about it. Before you graduate, find 15 minutes, all by yourself, to just sit in here, without your phone, and with only your thoughts. Consider how many have come before you, and how many will be here after you, and know and feel that you are a vital part of the fabric of this school, that you belong to it, and it belongs to you. Finally, fight the cynicism and your frustration with rules and protocols that drive you nuts. But leave your suggestions with us too. Be a thoughtful and caring critic over those final 9 weeks. The school will be yours for the rest of your lives. No reason not to start now in thinking out loud about how it might be better still. During one of my trips over the past month, I attended the annual meeting of the Headmasters Association, a group of 100 independent and public school, secondary school heads, principals, and superintendents who gather every year around a theme with great speakers and some time to think together about our work as school leaders. All 3 of my predecessors at Brooks were members of this association. And the second headmaster of the school, H. Peter Aiken, passed away this past summer. There's a service of remembrance at this meeting every year, and I had the honor this year of remembering Mr. Aiken. In preparing my remarks, I consulted with his family and tried to read up on his tenure, which ran from 1973 to 1986. In so doing, I found my way to a handwritten note or draft of a letter he wrote to the parents of Kippy Little at the time of her death. All who have been here for at least 1 year know that we have a chapel service every spring in honor of Kippy Little, who died tragically at age 24 when the launch she was in lost power, and was swept over a waterfall in the Schuylkill River in Philadelphia during a spring trip crew practice in 1984, 35 years ago this month. The handwritten note has crossouts and scribbles and arrows on it and conveys Mr. Aiken's effort to find just the right words at an unthinkable moment. He shared some of what he wrote to Kippy's family at the memorial service held right here in Ashburn Chapel on April 3rd, 1984, and finished by saying, and I quote, "The spirit of Brooks is embodied in the accumulating legacy of all who have lived and worked here and committed themselves in some way to its story," end quote. As I make my way to and from campus, visiting with alums, and then returning to the wonderful buzz of school in session, it strikes me that those before us and all of us now have been and are part of the accumulating legacy Mr. Aiken referenced. To have a spring with all of us committed to furthering our school's story from here is my hope. Thank you all for a wonderful winter full of accomplishments and triumphs of all kinds. We have done well. Have a great spring vacation and see you in 3 weeks.